All right, hey guys. Just gonna make a quick video to talk about something that I've been working on. So one of the major things that's been missing in Final Fight is all of what I call the level decoration, basically the placement of predetermined objects. Like in the Bay Area stage, where do you put the barrels? Where do you put the people sitting on the benches? Where do you put the people sitting on the benches in the subway? All that kind of stuff. But the thing is, I've been avoiding doing it for a really long time. Just because it's such a pain in the ass. But yeah, of course. I mean, I swear to God, this elevator stage just doesn't quit. There's always something to do just because of the inherent BS complexity of it. So basically, in the original game, when you're going up the elevator, there are actually enemies that are hanging off of the beams or standing there, and then when you get close enough, they jump off and start attacking you. But the thing is, though, that becomes way more complicated when your beam construction is completely arbitrary depending on the aspect ratio of the game. And so, I was putting off doing it just because, God, it fucking sucks. But I finally just manned up and just grinded away at it until it was done. So hopefully I never have to look at this again. But so you'll see here when we're going up the elevator, you're going to see the enemy placement. And see how basically it can actually randomly generate different enemy configurations depending on like what type of beam structure that you have there. And so you'll notice that like different palette versions of characters are being generated there, and depending on like what the beam structure is, you're going to have different placements. And so basically the different variations are you can have an Andore by himself. You can have an Andore with a Poison or a Roxy. You can have two of what I call just like the basic thugs, like just randomly picking Bread, Jake, Simons and Doug. And then you can have a standing J or 2P, or another random option is just nobody. It's just empty. And so you can see that these different configurations are appearing there. And the thing is, like if I change this so that we're running a different aspect ratio, you'll actually see how the different placement still actually works there. And so, oh yeah, and if I start this again, and so I mean, you can't really tell that easily, but basically, it is randomized to a certain extent. So you'll see that this time when we go up there, it probably isn't going to be the same exact layout of the enemy, spawn points there. And so yeah, see how it's a little different this time. This time, the first time we just got these two guys, and then we just got more. See, so basically every time you play it, the enemy layout on the elevator is going to be semi-randomized depending on the aspect ratio of your display. And so yeah, so it was a big pain in the ass to do this because depending on the aspect ratio, the amount of space that you have for the beam structures is different. And so yeah, so it was a nightmare. Oh yeah, and then the other thing too. I mean, I might as well just talk about it, while I'm discussing this. But so here's the funny, just to tell you how it works. So here's the funny thing about video games and how they work. So this stage, well, so I have this concept of basically relative and absolute positioning. And so basically I can have different types of levels, and so one type of level says that the objects in it are relative to the stage, or or they're absolutely positioned, relative to the camera. And so what's funny is, even though this stage actually gives the illusion of movement, like it's moving, the funny thing about it is that actually this stage, is really, there's actually no movement. It's all an illusion. Like every object you see, it isn't like, we're basically saying, oh, as the elevator rises, their y coordinates keep increasing. They always actually have the same y coordinates. So this whole thing is an illusion where basically we make it look like like the background is moving, but actually all of these objects are displaced relative to where the camera is. So for example, if like you see Doug standing there by the barrel, even though it might look like we've scrolled up a few screens, and so you would think that his Y position would be something like 2000 or something like that. No, his Y position is only actually something more like 140 pixels from the top of the camera. Because all of these guys are displaced relative to that. So this whole thing is basically just a trick, and I actually use the same trick on the endless stages, because the endless stages, they endlessly scroll, and it seems like you're actually going left and right, but you're really not. Like it's actually the screen is truly only the width of your camera, and all that we're doing is just telling the background to scroll once all of the human objects are past a certain point. So it's just entirely an illusion. It's like you're not actually traversing like a stage that is a set amount of pixels in width, and that's why you'll notice that on all the endless stages there's actually no variance in the collision detection on the stages. Like they don't have like different heights depending on how far you are in, because really the whole thing is just a trick. It's just giving you the illusion that you're like actually in a stage that's really long. Whereas all that's really happening is we're just basically telling the background to move. So yeah, and so what happens is the beam in this stage actually does have a real position, because when we build something out, we're really saying like, well, this this part of the beam in the building background is actually 2000 pixels or something, for its Y position, and the characters, when they're just standing there before they enter the stage, they actually do have a position like that. But what happens is when the camera hits a certain point, we basically just say translate that position into a position relative to the camera, and so that's what happens when we actually bring these guys into the stage. We translate their position so that they can now join the action and they're not part of the background anymore. So that's just a brief explanation of how the stage works. I think it's pretty much this stage. That was one of the real missing components of it. I don't know. It just seems like it never ends with this stage. There's always just more and more BS to deal with. But I mean that is the penalty of doing the the dynamic aspect ratios. Like I've just never stopped paying for that. It's just such a huge bitch to deal with all of the issues that are. I mean, this is why games don't do it. This is why games almost always, like 2D games, why they almost always have fixed aspect ratios, because the problems just never end. It just never. There's always something else to deal with.